The word flourish, I love this word because it's I guess the pretty much the best translation from the Greek word eudaimonia, and that's a long word to spell, ease and use and all kinds of things. But eudaimonia, and the whole point of eudaimonia is really about um, it's not just happy. Happy is a part of the happy is almost like weather to climate, so where the eudaimonia is more the climate, like you are being your best self. You are living your best life. You're bringing, not only do you feel like you're fulfilled and life is awesome, even though bad things happen and all that, but at the same time you are contributing and creating and producing in a way that you're at your best work. And so flourishment is like the pinnacle in my mind for human. And we can argue all kinds of different philosophies and all of that. But you could play this out really in just about any major religion or philosophy. This is or even popular psychologists. But this is when you're in the zone or you're in your focus or what it's that. So when I look at that word flourish, it just felt like this is what we should call the podcast, and it really is focused around those three roles of family, business, and community. And when all right, so here's flourish. That's the title, all that. What does it mean and how does it apply? Well, as a founder, there are so many roles that you think, so many responsibilities you think you have. Well, certainly as a young founder, you may have to do it all. So if you're starting a business, you are, as they say, chief cook and bottle washer, that kind of thing. But you're probably running a lot of your accounting. Maybe you've outsourced part of that. You're making legal decisions, even if you have a legal advisor. You're potentially slinging code if it's a software company, or digging ditches if it's a construction company, or pounding nails. Whatever you're doing, you are likely the worker, the creator, the strategist. You're sitting down, putting your strategy together, marketing. All those things are you. So okay, great. You will find likely that some of those things are that you're in your genius zone, man. You are rock and roll, and this is what you're made for. And some of those things you absolutely loathe, and you just struggle through. Now extrapolate that out. Now you're at an organization, and maybe you're a manager in a team or whatever else. But you're looking at an organization where you have multiple people with various roles and doing various activities. In those cases, you want to flourish for sure, but being a leader, your role, my role, as I've found in growing my company, my primary role, my primary desire, my primary directive, if you're looking on the technology side, it is to enable folks to flourish. That's my goal. That's my desire for every individual employee in our company. I want them to flourish. And I think, the more I think as a founder, as a CEO, if that's where your mind is, things are going to work out. There's, oh boy, all kinds of asterisks and anecdotes need to go with that. But to focus on flourishment means, yes, of course, there's shareholder value and those kind of things you got to think about if you're in a public company, or even in your own world, your own salaries and those things. And there's strategies, all that's got to go there. But if at the fundamental heart of your role, you're focusing on the flourishment of your employees, I think it changes everything. And it certainly has for me. And so what does that mean? Well, before we get there, let's go to the next, within that same role, when I continue to tune my antenna and my focus on flourishment, I take it into being a father. And I look at my family, and it helps me. I'm less taken over by pride of, well, you should do it this way because it's the way I did it as a kid, or it's the way I want you to do it, or it's the way I think society wants you to do it, child. And there's some of that, don't get me wrong, that comes in, and whether it's, I don't know, manners or how you talk, whatever, but what it allows me to do, and sometimes better than others, but what it allows me to do is actually look at my children in their environment and in their generation and with their current challenges and those things, and allows me to focus on what will enable them to flourish, as opposed to what I think allowed me to flourish growing up in the 80s and 90s. And so that whole piece, it plays over. So when I'm test switching between being a founder and being a father, at that point I'm still in that mindset of flourishment. And I think it has helped me in that way, as opposed to in my business, I'm focusing on driving profits. Of course, you're focused on driving profits, but my intent, it's the core of what I'm at is about these things, right? And sometimes I'm sticking it to some customer or whatever, right? And then I come home, and I don't want to be an a-hole at home. It's my family, or maybe you do. I don't know, but I don't. And so I try not to be an a-hole in either. I try to go in with flourishment in mind, and that flourishment extends not just to the employees that are working with you, but also to customers, to partners, to suppliers, to stakeholders, whoever it is in the game. If my primary directive is about enabling the flourishment of those around me, that really, I think, solves a lot of the dissonance things that we run into. We've been told how to be, how to act, how to treat people, all those things, and it's about the goal, or it's about how we crush this, or we do this, or whatever. And yeah, of course, man, you're going to be a fierce competitor. Of course, you're going to look for margin and do that. Of course, all that stuff's real. But when that stuff is on the foundation of flourishment and seeking others' flourishment, boy, I just feel like that it changes the game and it changes the relationship. And yes, you're going to have hard conversations and tough situations. You have folks you just can't work with. They're just impossible. But what's coming out of your heart at that point, and how you're behaving, it just is different, man. It's different. And that doesn't have to work for you, but that's what works for me. So so my entire life right now, whatever role I'm in. So we've talked about founder, we've talked about family. In my community, there are so many things in a community where people just have their fiefdoms, they have their desires, and if you try to help in your local community, you're going to get wrapped up in that stuff. You're going to get shot at from both sides, all that. I am continually, low crawling through the lines, and they're shooting at both sides, whether it's community, political, whatever. But when I'm focused on flourishment, it does help pull me out of the muck, because I don't necessarily get caught with my own fiefdom. I don't get caught with my own flag that I'm waving. I'm like, come to my team, come to my camp. It's less about that, and it's more about what's best for, and I'm not the one to decide all this, of course, but I'm thinking about it, right? What is best for our community? And our community includes you and the knucklehead over here, and the demagogue over here, and all these people that think they're just, and the voices that aren't speaking. It includes them, and the ones that are disadvantaged and underserved, and the power players, and it includes everybody. And it's not, it's still a minefield, and you got to walk through it. I guess I'm just pointing that whole flourish piece has just changed the game for me. And I didn't start out thinking that way. I mean, I was raised well. My parents love them. They did a great job. My community, I grew up many times. The bus let me off, or walking down from school, and being in the VFW shooting pool with a bunch of old veterans, and who just had no qualms about sharing their life lessons with me as a young guy. Some maybe I shouldn't have heard at that point, but what an awesome way. So I kind of, those life lessons of how kind of the world works were early to me, and that was great. So my point is I had a great upbringing, and I think I had a pretty healthy view on the world. But later in life, when this flourish piece really kind of snuck into my world, and it began to be the foundation of my focus, and it really started with the company, with the business, and where we're going there. And it just, the moment it was there, it was like I'd say it caught fire, but it was more like fire, burning off the facade of whatever the foundation really needed to be, and it just made it reappear. Right? It's like burning off a plating to show this awesome, gem inside, or whatever it is. And it's hard. It's a great foundation to go on, because I can fall back to it continually. I'm like, all right, what's the path here for flourishment? For me, for this employee, for me, for the customer, for me, for the partner, for me, for my kids, my wife. And I don't do it 100%. I'm not preaching here, but that, using that as the foundation for my approach, boy, it just changed things. It's changed everything. So how does that then play out? Well, as I look at my role, I kind of look at my role in two ways. It's who we are and where we're going. And so those are the two roles that I play heavily in our company. Even today, as we've scaled, I still am primarily the agent of who we are culturally and where we're heading strategically. And but both of those still sit on a pillar, on a really, really strong cornerstone of flourishment. And I'm seeking, how can we flourish? Our purpose at Mountain Leverage is quite simply life elevated peak performance. And that's not just a tagline. And we don't beat people over the head with it. We don't talk about it a ton, probably not as much as we should, and we probably need to fix that. But it's at the core of what we do, and it sounds arrogant. So I get that. It's a life elevated. Oh, you're going to elevate my life. Well, when you work with our team, and I'm sure many of you have not and probably never will, and that's okay. But when you work with our team, you should leave that engagement better than you came in. Again, sounds like hubris. I get it. And I don't mean it that way, but it's just, it shouldn't be a depleting conversation. It should be an uplifting conversation because we're about flourishment for whoever else we're dealing with. And so that whole life elevated piece is awesome, is important. But we're not just sitting around a fire singing Kumbaya and giving hugs and handing out candy. I mean, we're doing work too. And so that's where the peak performance comes in. That's the impact. We're going in, and yes, we're engaging with you in the business, and you should feel better for it. You generally should like our people, even personalities engage, whatever, but you should see the intent of what we're doing. It's kind of obvious, and everybody can market it and everybody can say it, but you got to live it and for it to be real. And it doesn't take long working with somebody to realize that sales is here, delivery is here, so you get that all the time. But all right, but if I'm not bringing you any value for your business, we're just friends. And you can't, if there's no margin, there's no mission, you cannot run a business being friends. So yes, there's the life elevated piece. And that's the life elevated, obviously, for our employees and their families and their communities, but it's for our customers and the individuals, right? There's always people. You're always working with people in business. We all know this. We don't know this going in. We're told, we think it's logo to logo and we're all that. It's people. And so it's about those people, their families, their communities, and go on, so forth and so forth. Whatever the stakeholder is, it's that model. So there's that life elevate piece. Fantastic. But if I'm not bringing any value, so that's where the peak performance comes in. Now our business focuses on work optimization and I could go on and I won't, but we are bringing peak performance. And I think, you could look at that a couple of different ways. Peak performance for individuals here, peak performance for individuals that are customers, of course, their organizations, hitting their goals, finding the right goals, all of that. I mean, you can apply that really anywhere. And so those two balance themselves. And if you'll notice, you'll see kind of the thread of flourishment fits through that, because you're being awesome to people, you're being awesome to yourself, and you're also bringing this just fantastic work, right? And this optimization, this performance. And so that's how that all ties in, and it works for us. We're not the biggest company in the world. We're not the richest company in the world. But I think in terms of our relationships with our customers and with our partners and suppliers and all stakeholders, the relationship is rich, and I love that about our company, and it's important to me. And so if you're running a company, I would encourage you to think about that. What is that foundation you're on? It's just about making money, and if that's okay, if that's your thing, great. Just know, and you may know this, you may not, but just know at the end of the day, I mean, money can be made all day long. Lots of money can be made. But what impact have you made? What have you done? So that should be a product of the process, not necessarily a thing. And I'm not preaching to you. It is what your goals are your goals. But for us and for me, flourishment is the pinnacle, and it's sometimes understated because it's played out in other ways. So that's that I found. So maybe you're not a founder. Maybe you're in an organization as a middle manager, or you're just an individual contributor, whatever it is. I would encourage you to try on the consideration of what is your foundation. And you may already know it, and I'm not being disrespectful by assuming you don't. You probably do. But challenging it in a way is it as broad-based as flourishment? Maybe not. And I'm not asking y'all to do what I'm doing. It works for me. So I'm sharing it. And maybe you've got something better that works for you, and that's awesome. But that's why this podcast is called Flourishment. And again, you take that into your family, into your community, it just works. And so I've found through the crucible of the three roles that I play in this world, if something, as the heat, it heats up, it can sometimes be hot at all three, but as it heats up, if it's still left after, passing through those three roles, it's probably something I should really understand and engage more in and apply in my life. And that's happened with eudaimonia or flourishment. So that is why we're talking about Flourish with Alex Reneman. That's the name of the podcast. I cringe that my name's even in it and my face is going to be on it. But it has It's forced me to ask so many questions that I don't think I'd asked otherwise. You can get caught up in so many different goals and strategies and advice and recommendations and top 10 lists, and the best parents do this or the best CEOs do that or whatever, or your neighbor down the street telling you exactly what should happen in your community. It's no shortage of do this, try this, here's this. And that's only going to get more in this. I mean, social media rolled around. It's like, there's an expert in every corner. Here, look, you got one right here talking to you. I'm posing as an expert. Yeah, that's what my imposter syndrome tells me that I'm posing. I'm not. I've got some expertise. It's okay. It doesn't have to be better or greater than yours. It doesn't have to apply to you. But you've got all this noise coming at you, and now as we ramp into this next phase of evolution and generative AI is coming aboard, even more content, even more distillation of massive amounts of information that are going to come to a conclusion. It doesn't necessarily need to be, or doesn't necessarily mean it'll be the right conclusion or the conclusion for you, but it'll come to conclusions, and you have a lot of them thrown at you. And with experts, both real, human and artificial, that will be telling you do this, do this, do this, do this. And I are one right at this point, so here I am. But I will tell you, when you can focus, when you have something that spans all three of your roles, or how many ever roles you have, boy, it's worth sitting down with a warm drink, cold drink, no drink, whatever it is, and spending a lot of time thinking on how important that is, reading on the concept, learning about those in history who have really implemented it or leveraged it, and going from there. So mine is flourishment. And that's just, it's working for me. Yours may be something completely different, and that works for you, and that's cool. That's not a problem. All right. Well, that's, I mean, I could go on a lot, but at least that gives you some explanation of, why that is. It's not just a word we've picked out of the air. It is the very essence of what I am about right now. And that may change in the future, but I don't think it will. I don't think it will. This is, in life, you're on a path, and you pick up things along the way. Sometimes a walking stick or whatever, right? And it breaks and you throw it aside or whatever. This doesn't feel like one of those things. This feels like this is like a scar. You pick it up and it's always going to be there. This is with me, but it's at my very core. And I found it to be awesome. I found it to unlock the magic of life and relationships. And when I'm killing it, when I'm flourishing, it's because I have focused on not just my own flourishment, but others. And when I'm off, when I'm, feeling, there used to be those old V8 commercials where somebody's sideways, you have to drink a V8 to straighten up. When I feel like that, it takes me a while sometimes. It's embarrassing how long it takes me to realize, oh, you idiot. I realize I haven't been focusing on others' flourishment or my own. It's easy to focus on other folks and not realize you got to be a part of that. To be able to help others flourish, you have to be flourishing. And that's a hard lesson for, I don't know. I mean, it's a hard lesson for everybody. It feels like it's hard lessons for dads because, and I'm sure moms feel that way. It's a hard lesson for leaders and companies because it's all about serving others if you're a servant leader. But it's probably hard for everybody for whatever reasons you have. So anyway, flourishment. That's where we are. Eudaimonia. Hopefully that's it's interesting to you. Hey, if you've got thoughts, let me know. If you got questions, other topics you want to hear about, I could keep going on this one, and I've got a whole bunch more in the can, in my mind, if you will, not the as they say in podcasting, in the can recorded, but in this nugget up here that I'm anxious to have these conversations with you, and we'll get them going soon. So in the meantime, wherever you are, whatever time it is, I hope you're flourishing.